Sanbanani guys, welcome back to yet another episode review of the show The Mummy Club. And I actually want us to speak about one of the recent episodes where Nozi opens up to Mrs. Mops about her business. She tells her about, how that she's not, that her life is not what she ever imagined it to be. But I do think Unozi, kind of like felt like she could trust Mrs. Mops, and hence she opened up to Mrs. Mops about the whole situation. But what Mrs. Mops then goes and does is that Mrs. Mops decides to go and share that information with Happy. She shares that information with Happy, and I just that's one of the things that I truly didn't appreciate about Mrs. Mops, but I'll get to that in a second. But a lot of people on Twitter were actually saying that Unozi does not have any content on the show The Mommy Club. The only thing that she speaks about, or the only content and tea that she brings to the show, is the fact that her husband is a polygamist, or the husband wants to take a second wife. Besides that, she doesn't have any content. And I was thinking about this, you guys, and I'm like, even if it's the case that she doesn't have any content, I love the fact that she's taking the opportunity. She took the opportunity to kind of put herself out there. And the beauty of being able to take advantage of an opportunity, even though it is a painful one, is that even tomorrow, if you want to launch yourself, I think she's launching like a clothing line or something like that. I stand to be corrected. She then has the benefits of people then know her. She's then growing her clientele base because she's known by the whole South Africa now. To be honest, me, myself, and I did not even know about Unozi up until she joined the Mommy Club. So a lot of us now know about her, and chances are if we know about her, we are then much more capable, or we are then much more likely to support her, especially or considering the situation she's in. And this made me think of another person who leveraged on a situation that they were going through, is Latongo. Latongo, if you remember, she appeared on the Real Housewives of Durban. And it is said that by the time she was actually even on the Real Housewives of Durban, she was not even with the former president. They were no longer even together. But she still goes and appear on a show that's for housewives. She was not even wearing a ring. She didn't even want to talk about it because things were bad. But she took advantage and she leveraged on that situation. And it worked out to her benefit. Look where Latongo is today. I knew about Latongo, but she was not as big as when she entered the Real Housewives of Durban. She opened up a company. The company did well. Now she's even a host of several TV shows. And she's done well for herself. So I really do think Unozi is trying to take that route. Especially for a woman who's been a housewife for so many years. You've been reliant and dependent on your husband for so many years. Your life was centered and revolved around your husband, as Unozi says. I think it's so easy for you to kind of forget that there are passions in life and there are things that you want to do for yourself, because your whole life is centered around making your husband happy and making your children happy, which isn't, it's not all a bad thing. But now it's time for her to take care of herself, because there's another woman who has entered the scene. And when another woman has entered the scene, guys, things are going to change in her life forever. I don't know if she's gonna leave or she's gonna stay. I really don't know her decisions, but I truly do think if she does plan on leaving, this is a beautiful exit strategy. If she does plan on staying, at least she can redirect her attention to building herself and not feeling like she has to depend and be at the mercy of her husband because he's the breadwinner. So that's that. And then again, what I wanted to actually also touch on is that Uhappy decides to take the girls out on a trip. And when she takes the girls out on a trip, she says that she wants the event or the trip to be like a vent session or a talking session where, they basically speak their hearts out. So while they were at that event, Happy, says she speaks of Mrs. Mops and she, praises Mrs. Mops. She's like, Mrs. Mops is a girl's girl. She says Mrs. Mops believes in women. She loves women and people. She's all about women empowerment and people oftenly like don't understand Mrs. Mops and say a lot of things about her. And I don't want to get into the scene of Ratile of whatever Ratile said, but I want to speak about what Happy said that Mrs. Mops is a girl's girl. And one thing about Mrs. Mops, I do think her brand that she tries to seem like a girl's girl. I do think she tries to seem like a girl's girl. But in all honesty, I don't feel like Mrs. Mops is actually a girl's girl. I really don't feel so. Especially, and like one of the things that kind of like confirmed that feeling for me is when she posted on the news or the information that Nozi gave her and she posted onto Happy. And even when she posted onto Happy, she added her sugar and spice. When she was posting it over to Happy, she said that like her man is leaving her. And what. Like, Nozi didn't say anything about her man leaving her. She just spoke about that the man wants to take another wife. She never said anything about her man leaving her. Now, when Mrs. Mops is telling the story to Happy, she's like adding her sugar and spice there. Not only that, I feel like it was such a sensitive thing. I think we can all see that Nozi hasn't just she's spoken about the situation, but she spoke about it in depth with Mrs. Mops. I think if Unozi really wanted to speak to Happy, she would have. But in her diary session, she does speak about, that yeah, you can see what she doesn't trust Happy to that extent of speaking her marital affairs with Happy. And like I understand, everyone can see how Happy is. Happy, you tell her something today. Tomorrow, if you guys fight, she's gonna throw that thing in your face. So Happy's not the type of person you would open up to her about these type of stuff. So I feel like Mrs. Mops, like it was such sensitive information for you to go and pass it over to Happy. And knowing that Happy is a loud mouth, Happy knows everyone's business. Let's just start with that. And I know that even when they were having that session between Happy and Mrs. Mops, Happy knew of that information already. So I just feel like if you're a girl's girl, then why not protect Nozi's, yes, it's out there already. She could have just shared, because Happy did ask Mrs. Mops to check up on Unozi. So she could have just said, yes, I did check up on her. She opened up to me about certain things, which is quite sensitive information. I think when Unozi is ready, she'll open up to you or she'll open up to to the rest of the group, but she didn't do that. So I think Mrs. Mops tries and, portray herself. There's a certain image that she gives off, which I personally just feel like it's not really like the real her, or it's not like the full her. And in the previous season, like I feel like a lot of people could see that Mrs. Mops has like unyata in some type of way, the comments that she makes and all of that. I don't know, guys. I really don't know. But yeah, I just feel like she could have treated that situation like a lot more better. Who else did I want to touch on? I also want to touch on Uratile. Ratile has been messy in this season, and she kind of reminds me of Usli from Real Housewives of Durban. She reminds me of Usli. And last season, Ratile was crying about the fact that the girls did not include them. It's almost like they did not welcome her, which I kind of sympathized and I agreed with her. But this season, you are included, ma'am. And in this season, when you included, you are just like so messy. Like Ratili will throw a bomb and say whatever and then get up and leave or want to cry and then cry victim or act like she's a victim. Like her attitude and the way she carries herself, like some things I'm just like, you portray yourself as this classy lady, like act like that. Like don't just go around like being messy and all of that. Yes, there's stuff that Happy has said and done to her, which kind of makes it reasonable of why Oratil is acting like that. But I'm just like, if you're gonna come for someone of the way they act, and then you act in the very same way, like it doesn't make you any different from Happy and the way Happy acts. And then her friend as well. Like, if one thing, that friend who just stands up with her, like, I am not for friends who just stand up for you regardless of every situation. A friend should be able, yes, maybe, yes, maybe they should defend you, or when you're wrong, they should keep quiet and not try and defend you in a public setting. But in private, they should be able to tell you that here you went wrong, you spoke harshly, you were rude, and all of that. And I just feel like, oh, Mrs. Oh, her friend, Ratile's friend, what's her name? Sunday or something. Yeah, Sunday. She, she's just, yeah. A friend like that, is a friend like that will literally like assist you to take the wrong path, because they just want to support you even when you're wrong. They benefit your enemies, whereas like she just benefited the beef of Ratile and Happy just because Ratile is a friend. Like, I don't think that's a mature thing. Yes, you can keep your distance, and yeah, you can keep your distance from people who are friends and people who are close to you, or from people who are enemies with people who are close to you, but like, don't benefit people's beef. Like, I am not for that. But anyway, guys, that is my little recap on the Mummy Club, and I feel like the Mummy Club is low key or high key actually giving Real Housewives vibes. Like, I didn't expect such drama from a Mummy Club. It really is on the standard of actually being like the Real Housewives of Johannesburg or something like that, because of the drama that they have been bringing. But yeah, you see these type of setups, I normally find like they are toxic. Unozi, like I can see, like she's just here for one reason, to speak her truth. I really hope next season she doesn't come back, because one thing I've noticed is that the people who are like innocent and clean the first season, somehow they get pressure from the public that you're not bringing content, and then the next season you are being messy, you are acting out of character. So I really hope Nozi, for her own sanity's sake, that she doesn't come back next season, and then leave the messy ones to be messy, because clearly like they enjoy that drama. Anyway, please do make sure that you like the video. Please also do subscribe. It is for free of charge, and I'll see you on the next one.